I guess we're gonna talk about guitar for an hour. Looks like y'all got guitars, so that's half the battle right there. This here is Van Birchfield playing fiddle. I'm Isaac. Are y'all, do you feel comfortable playing in the key of C?
We would have to.
That's what we're trying to get over here. C is, I feel like the vast majority of the great C fiddle repertoire, or Georgia fiddle repertoire, is in C. So if you want to play that music, it's good to have under your fingers. So I guess for starters, I usually like to think about guitar in terms of what people call the Nashville number system, which confuses some folks who aren't familiar with it. So I'll just go over that briefly. Instead of calling out the name of the chord, you call out the function of the chord within the piece of music. So if you're in the key of C, your C is your one chord. Do y'all know about this? You familiar with this? Okay. Some yes, some no. So in the key of C, your four chord is the F, which I find if you can do it, you can either bar it like that, or I like to play it with the thumb over getting the low F. If you can't do that, you can alternate these two in F, but getting the low F gives you a lot. And then the five chord is G. Another thing that is helpful is if you make your G with these three fingers as opposed to like that, there's less movement when you're going back and forth between the chords. So that's not the way most folks are taught to play a G chord, but in the context of this music, I find it's really helpful to go from the C to the G with a very small amount of movement. So anyway, 1, 4, and 5. I was gonna maybe start with Katydid. Maybe we could just play Katydid and see how that goes,
Okay.
and then talk about what's happening. The B part of Katydid has some minor stuff going on, but we'll get there in a second.
Does that go? All right, we did that one in the jam yesterday, if you were here for that. So the A part is just 1 and 5, so it's C and G. And you can basically find your way back and forth between the C and the G chords however you want, which is the glory of being the guitar player. Especially if there's only one guitar player, you can really do anything you want. But what I'm doing is alternating the bass.
that was like an A part. Pretty simple. The bass drums generally are leading into the next chord. So if you know where the next chord is happening, that's your way ahead of the game. So trying to keep in mind the structure of the tune as you play is helpful. Y'all got that yet? That's a kind of the cornerstone move to get from a G chord to a C chord. That was different, but same. I do this a whole lot, which is something I picked up from Riley Puckett, where he sort of accents the beat after the first beat. So and if you're doing it with a flat pick, I usually go down, up, down, down. What else was going on in there? That's a good one. You can walk down from the C chord, walk up into the G chord, and then back to C. And then the B part is minor, which in the key of C would give you an A minor. And on the record, the guitar is being played by Mike Whitten, and he does a kind of nifty, quick jump from the A minor to the E major. Does two downs at the end. You can walk it back into the C. Does that make sense to folks? Do y'all want to try and play it? Medium tempo?
Sure.
how you feel about that one.
How do you finish that off?
The tag.
Yeah.
So I actually failed to play what I intended to play, and something else came out, but it was the shave and a haircut 2 bits. I think that's what I was trying to do, but it came out like something else. I feel like with guitar, I try not to think too terribly much. And your fingers kind of get a sense of what notes are good and what aren't. And it sort of lays under your fingers because any of the notes in the chord work. It's an arpeggio. And the low note works. And you can walk with that walk into about anything. But yeah, tags are fun, especially if the fiddle's doing a tag and you can do something in a similar rhythm underneath it. Can't do it.
What are the chords that are happening while you're tagging?
While you're tagging, it would be C, G, C. I feel like I'm being quizzed.
Well, I just think it would be a helpful way to understand.
Yeah, he's right. Yeah, it does change chords. So yeah, basically you're playing a C chord and then a G chord and walking back into the C chord. Question?
Usually on the tag, is it playing last half measure again, or is it last whole measure? Like if you're playing B2 again,
Kind of
does
just
it differ?
depends. A lot of times, yeah, people will just do like kind of some variation of that. Or sometimes people, will try to like incorporate the melody into the tag or something.
Sometimes they'll do a double tag where you think it ends and then there's another tag and it really ends. It's all about having fun and kind of getting a little wild. So like Sarah was talking about, like the more levity and humor you bring to it, the better. And yeah, there's nothing better than doing something silly that makes your buddy laugh out loud while they're trying to play music, So have fun.
People kind of try to come up with their own tags, kind of.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I like the ones where it references the melody of the tune, because sometimes it'll sound like it's going into a part, like the A part again, and that turns into a tag, which is fun and kind of unexpected. But if you're around that fiddler and they do that thing, sometimes you can catch it before the audience might hear it. Any other questions about Katie did? What's that?
Do you advise your thoughts around accompanying a fiddle tune that you might not be super familiar with?
Yeah.
You might have like an ear, like sometimes you get like 75% of the way. Or
Sure.
of the way to the chorus. So like, keep trying, or say if there's not another rhythm player to follow.
Yeah, hearing chords is on the fly is kind of an art form in itself, and playing unfamiliar tunes with unfamiliar people, it's definitely a skill that comes just with practice. But I think the best way to approach it is to just play the one chord until something sounds funny, and if it sounds funny in a 4-chord kind of way, that might be a thing to try. And then I feel like most people can hear, when they've been playing guitar for a while, the 1 and the 4 and the 5 are hearable, but then you hear other stuff like minor parts often catch me by surprise. If I've never heard the tune before and the tune goes minor, I don't know what to do. So a lot of times I'll play major chords over the minor part, and some fiddlers find that irritating and some like it. But it's tricky. Do you have any thoughts on that, Van?
Yeah, just hanging back and playing the one chord is not a bad strategy, because if you're going to be playing the wrong chord, it's probably a less wrong chord to
Right.
play. So that's my thought.
Yeah, and also if you're hanging on the one, I feel like it's easier to keep the structure of the tune in your head. If you're just blindly going for chords and you sort of lose your place in the tune, it's oftentimes by the time you're hunting for the chord, the fiddler is back on the one chord anyway. So half the time when I hear people playing the wrong chord, it's in a part where they know the chords, but they hadn't got back around to it yet. So it's sort of the path of least error, I guess, because most tunes spend most of the time on the one. So statistically, I guess you're, more likely to be right there. And yeah, that was another sort of thing the next tune I was gonna think about was, what's the dilly tune I mentioned earlier?
Tallapoosa Bound?
Tallapoosa Bound. And I feel like rag structured tunes throw a lot of people off, and they have a repeating structure that is common across many tunes. So I feel like if you get the framework of the tune in your head, it's easier to play other tunes with similar structure. So if you want to try that for a while. What's that? Okay. Yeah, it's in the key of G. And it's another good one that you could play a lot of chords on it. You could harmonize it fully, but on the record they don't. They play 1, 4, and 5 and a 2 chord. So in the key of G, your 2 chord, G, A, and this is an A chord that I picked up from playing fingerstyle guitar. I don't know that a lot of old time people do this, but or maybe they do. It's an A7. You can play a regular A, however you play an A, but the 2-7, 5-7 sounds good to me, so that's how I normally do it. That's another thing. On the vast majority of tunes, when a 5 chord comes around, a lot of times in the key of G, I'll play a 5-7, so a D7 instead of that D. And thumb over is it feels impossible the first time you try to start messing with thumb over stuff. But I've seen people with really small hands pull it off. Like, it is physically possible if you work at it, so don't be discouraged. And I feel like when people do thumb over stuff, it makes it look like they have huge hands, but they don't in actual fact. It's just a weird set of muscles you're not used to using, so it feels impossible, but just keep going for it. So like you can thumb over the F, and then if you thumb over your D7 chord, you get a really full D7. And then I do this. My grandpa played G chords like this. Thumb over and one finger. And I do that all the time because I'm lazy. And a lot of times I'll be like walking basses with my thumb, and it'll end up on a G, and it'll be there. I don't know if this is actually useful to most people, but it is what I do, and I find it useful. So the guitar has extended possibilities when you get into thumb over stuff. Anyway, Tallapoosa Bound. You want to play it?
Okay. Just.
So that tune comes from A.A. Gray playing fiddle and 7 Foot Dilly playing guitar. And if you've never listened to 7 Foot Dilly, you're in for a treat. Some of the best Georgia old-time music ever recorded. A lot of their records have bowed bass and banjo mandolin. They get a really unique sound. And Dilly is quite the comedian. He says some really interesting things. A lot of the records he just talks over, tells stories about playing baseball and gals he used to know and that kind of thing. Anyway, so the structure of this tune, I think of it as, well, for starters, the A part and the B part have the same chords. So if you get one on guitar, you're good for the whole thing. And there's sort of 4 phrases in the A part and the B part. And so the first phrase is all G. Feels like you're on the G for a while. And then the second phrase starts on a G, does the 2 to the 5, so A7 to D7. And then the third phrase is the same as the first phrase. It's all G for a good long while. And then the fourth phrase is the turnaround. And that's the part that you could extensively harmonize if you wanted to. And I wouldn't necessarily recommend doing that to your friends on this particular tune. But there are a bunch of other tunes that have that same kind of basic structure. The first phrase is the same as the third phrase. The second phrase has the 2-5, and then the last phrase is the turnaround. So if you get that sort of structure in your head and think about that structure and how it applies to other ragtimey tunes, sometimes it makes it simpler. I think a lot of people struggle with where the 2-5 goes, and if you remember that in a good many tunes, it's on that second phrase, you'll start to get it.
It's actually the same chords are a number of tunes.
Oh, many tunes. Yeah.
And songs.
Yeah.
It's probably a song structure.
Yeah.
Originally, but
Yeah, I think it comes from jazz ragtime song structure.
What's the typical chord structure?
Sorry, was it?
The typical chord structure
Of the turnaround. So that's where it gets interesting. On this record, they do a 4-chord. It walks up into the 4-chord, and then a 1-chord, 5-chord. But if you're playing jazzier tunes or jazzier music, you could do 6-chord, 5, or you could leave out the 6 and do a 2-5-1. So depending on the tune, there are many options. But the general structure of it is what they do on the Dilly record. So it's a 4, 2, 1, 5, back to 1. And if you extend the harmonizing to get in the 6 chords and the 2 chords, the 1 and the 4 and the 5 end up in the same spot. You just tack on the 6-2 in different places around those chords. That's pretty quick. So that's one beat of every chord in that progression. Anyway, that's probably getting ahead of ourselves. Let's learn the Dilly turnaround, and then if you want to stick some other chords in there too, you can feel free to do that. But you want to play it really slow, and I'll call out the number while we're doing it. Oh yeah. In the what part? Turn around. That's an option. I don't know if that's what I did. So I'll talk about, there's a couple ways to get into the D chord and the A chord. That's one I was doing a lot. So that is, if you're holding the G chord, you already got this finger, your middle finger's down. You walk it down to an A, open A. And you can do a similar thing walking into a D chord, but move it over one string towards the floor. So it's the same frets, same move. I use that all the time in all kinds of tunes. If you're going to a D chord, it's a good one. Do y'all feel like you understand the 6-2-5-1 situation somewhat? Not at all.
Is that what that was?
I only did it one time, but where you go to the E is the 6, A is the 2, 5-1. That pops up in all kinds of ragtimey tunes, jazz tunes. That's just a circle of fifths progression. So if you look at the circle of fifths, and you start on the E, it progresses. It's actually going backwards, right? It's fourths. E, A, D, G.
Yeah, you're playing the 5 of the chord you're about to play.
Right. What else? Any thoughts on these lines? Van is, you've probably seen an incredible guitar player.
No.
Not much of a thinker, though.
The like succession of dominant things like might make more sense if we played a tune that like is a long, you know, like 6-2-5-1 thing,
Sure.
right? I don't know, just a thought.
Yeah, you got one in mind?
I don't know. The first one that comes to mind is Whiskers,
Oh, yeah.
which
That's
is
a great
a
tune.
little bit crooked, but
Yeah. Thanks for suggesting that.
yeah.
That makes perfect sense. This is another thing that throws, I think, a ton of guitar players off if they're not used to playing ragtimey music. Is some of those tunes have a circle of fifths part, which is the B part of Whiskers. So it's in the key of C. So your 6 chord is A. 2 chord is a D, which I'm playing as if it was a C split up. if you make a C7 with your pinky, and don't play the E string. And then G goes the 5 back to 1. Yeah, I feel like it's easy for me to remember which one is the 6th chord in the key of C, because this running down the bass until you get to the 6th chord works in the key of C, and it also works in the key of G, and you end up on an E chord, which is the 6 of G. And a lot of tunes where the guitar, there's a couple notes ahead of that walk down. Do you want to play it with that right quick?
Okay.
Just the that part.
Where do you want to start?
There.
Okay.
That's good. I should have done it again, but that's on all kinds of 78s of like jug bandy, you know. What's that?
LSD. Old song named LSD.
Huh? I don't know it. But it's a great one, and then that sort of automatically shoots you down into the 6th chord. You can also play the D chord the standard way if you want to, D or D7. Do you have a Circle of Fifths in the key of G tune handy?
Not really, no. We could
There-
make something up.
Yeah, there are tunes that do it. Like Bully of the Town has that turn that does that, sort of. Is that right?
Yeah.
Anyway, in the key of G, if you encounter a G tune that does that, same idea. Back to 1. Also works. This genre of music, I feel like, is pretty foreign to a lot of old time folks, but it is my very favorite old time music to play. Have y'all ever heard of the band East Texas Serenaders? That stuff is so fun to play guitar to. A lot of people say that, you know, old time guitar is boring or uninteresting or whatever, and man, try to play Dream Shadows in E flat and you will, you know, it's no longer boring. It's very, very exciting. And all those tunes are really wonderful, fiddle and guitar, cello. Where's some good bands along these lines?
For like more ragtime influence stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's a big one. The Grinnell Giggers
Oh,
are
yeah.
great.
Yeah.
They play in all the flat keys
Yeah,
too.
B
A lot,
flat.
you know, obviously a lot of Georgia music, you know, is influenced by like all that stuff, and you know, less, you know, more like it's got a 2-chord in there or something sometimes, you know. But,
Yeah. Yeah, maybe we're getting out in the weeds,
but
but
there's still some. Yeah.
I feel like all this, you know, you can hear it especially on Low Stokes and Clayton McMitchen's sort of later records. They were listening to a lot of jazz and playing, you know, some of those records are just straight up jazz played on fiddle. with really great, complicated guitar backup. So it is definitely Georgia fiddle.
Was Kid Tanner and the Skillet Lickers, were they in Georgia there?
Oh yeah. They recorded in Atlanta, and some of their members lived in Atlanta at various times. I believe Lowe lived in Chattanooga for a while. Gid was from Dacula. So I feel like the Georgia string band music almost like extends up all of North Georgia to Chattanooga, like stylistically. There's some sort of bubble, and then down below a little bit too. That's a good question.
I don't know. He grew up in like a, school for the blind,
Right.
In Macon. I don't know where he was actually born, but yeah, he was in the same school at the same time, I think, as Will McTell as a
Yeah,
child.
which is wild to think about.
He's the man with bass runs.
Yeah, and sometimes his bass runs, I feel like a lot of guitar players want to make sense, A lot of people are leading into the next chord, and Riley was not concerned with that. Sometimes he'll play a whole tune and like not play a 5 chord, just bass runs here, there, It's great. It's really fun to listen to. I feel like it's hard to capture. I don't think I've ever heard anybody quite play Riley Puckett and pull it off the way he did. He had so much verve, or I don't know what, but he could do things.
Sound pretty
I don't know.
I can tell you've listened to him a lot.
I've spent a lot of time, listening to the Skillet Lickers. That was the first CD of old time music I ever got, was Document Skillet Lickers Volume 1, and it has never really left the stereo. Let's see. Question.
Not to too fine a point on it, but could you tell what that basic lick is you're playing?
Just the. So it's the fifth root, the root below. I do that in basically every key. The rhythm.
More behind when you touch, or moving your bass runs up.
Yeah. This is sort of, I usually do 2 notes right there in the middle. Not always. That sort of jazzes it up a little bit. That's a Riley thing. He did that. Yeah. Yeah, you can, Riley also, he did a lot of that, double time bass run stuff. Let's see. Does anybody have any questions of any nature at this moment? Rattle Trap. I feel like I've. Huh. I think I've played that in a jam, but I don't know it. Do you play it?
Yeah, it's like Fire on the Mountain. I'm playing. It's in Cross.
Cross. Okay.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of something that's like that. Yeah, I'd have to retune. We could do that.
You crossing down or up?
Down.
Yeah. Anybody else got any? Oh yeah. Okay. I mean, I like those, and I guess if we're trying to learn, might as well figure some of them out. I think also I meant to start off with this, that like when you're playing old time guitar, really want to be like pretty assertive. Because even if you're playing the wrong chord, like if I just sat here and played one chord's really loud and at the correct rhythm, like you could dance to that, and the fiddler probably wouldn't even mind that much for a lot of tunes. So like I think the natural inclination is to try and make everything as complicated and interesting as possible, but the deeper I get into it, I think the simpler my playing gets. I try and like whittle off some of the stuff that is unnecessary. Especially, I think that really came to me when I started trying to play fiddle. I didn't play fiddle for a long time, and so I was trying to play a bunch of busy stuff on the guitar, and then I started experiencing that as a fiddler, and I was like, oh, maybe I should rethink this. But yeah, it's a drum. Having your bass and your offbeat separated is a big part of it too. Having your bass note be just a bass note and your offbeat just an offbeat. Anyway.
Yeah. So
That's,
it's basically Fire on the Mountain. I think probably the thing in the B part when it goes to like the 4 chord, it does like that. Yeah, you just set the chord up. I don't know. I haven't tried to play this tune or heard it in a really long time, so
okay.
we'll see what comes out. But yeah, let's see. That's what it is. Okay. All right, let's try one more time.
Yeah. Okay, so
Something like that.
yeah, I've never heard that tune before, and I didn't know what to do. I think it had a 4 chord in the A part, but you don't gotta play it. You can just play a 1 chord.
It's from the Roan Mountain Hilltoppers.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I haven't
They
gotten into
definitely
that
weren't
stuff.
Playing
Just 1 chord.
unnecessary
Oh yeah,
chords,
and yeah,
optional chords.
there's a lot of fancy guitar stuff where this is way out in the weeds, but like if you were to harmonize that, it would be like a diminished chord, but nobody wants to learn how to play that. So just like slide it up and play a 7 and get on down the road, you know? I don't know. You don't gotta be fancy. Just make it work and have a good time. Also that last bit, I think I got that from Riley too, and I do it in all kinds of G tunes. There's a certain turnaround that when I hear it in a tune, I always want to do this, but it's like if you were gonna play it as chords, it would be like G, like a quick 5. But instead of playing the chord, you can just throw that on the end, and that implies the 5 chord and gets you back to the 1 chord, and sounds pretty fancy, jaunty. That is starting on the Thanks, Riley. Well, I guess we could expound upon topics previously discussed, or do another tune. What do y'all? One more tune. What's a good Georgia tune in C?
Oh gosh, I don't know. What do trees falling down? What do we?
They've been doing that all day.
Yeah,
Cut it down.
I thought I heard that.
Yeah.
What do you want to demonstrate?
How about the Taking Me Back to Georgia? That's a good one. We haven't done, that is a very Georgia C tune B part. There's a million Georgia C tunes that have a 1 to the 4 to the 5 back to the 1. And there's a lot of interesting ways to get into the F chord. You can do what we've been doing with the C chord and the G chord. Walk up with that same walk. I do that a lot in F. I like this one because I got the thumb going, where you walk down into the bass. Really, I guess the whole thing is just variations on that in every chord, every key, figuring out how to do that. Yeah, walk up, walk down. Yeah, those are your two options. Walk up and walk down. You can put, if you got your thumb going, you can put passing bass note, which would also be harmonized as a diminished thing. But you don't worry about harmonizing it. And then that's the B part. The A part is just 1 and 5, right? Mm-hmm. So kind of have talked about that a little bit. So why don't we try that one together, everybody at a moderate tempo. And yeah, go crazy. Throw in whatever you want.